I have a confession. Not too long ago, I almost quit. I almost decided no more horses. I'm done with this. This is too hard on my heart. I had about a year and change where I lost the farm I was teaching at. I didn't own it, but the lease expired and the person who was subletting to me decided not to continue. So I lost my location. I lost 2 of my horses in the same year over actually just about 6 months. One just a couple days after Christmas, one of my most trusty older school horses. And then the other was about 6 months later in the middle of summer. Was a really tragic colic situation. And I had a couple of difficult run-ins with challenging clients, and I just was done. I just was ready to throw in the towel and walk away from horses. Maybe keep a couple, 1 or 2 just for me to enjoy, but to be done with the business side. And I am so glad that I didn't, because I have learned so much and grown so much in the time since that day. And I'm hoping that today I will be able to talk you off the edge if you find yourself there. Hi, I'm Ruby. I'm a whole horsemanship trainer, and I help horses and their humans just like you to build deeper connections and better bonds so that you can find more magic with your horse, and also to find more meaning in the slog of the day-to-day, because that's really where the magic comes from. Today we're talking about what to do when you've lost that magic and you're not really sure if it's worth continuing on. You know, even just earlier this week, actually, I had a client who they had their very first horse. They're still very much in the honeymoon phase. They're pretty obsessed with him, and he had an unexpected colic and ended up at the hospital, and luckily he's fine. But I told them, you know, these are the days that I sometimes wonder why anybody loves horses, because to lose them is just the absolute most painful thing that we could really imagine. And they fill a really different spot in our lives and our hearts than, you know, it's very painful to lose a dog for sure, but certainly a horse size hole is very different than a dog size hole. And even if that's not what's going on, you know, if you've had an accident recently, or your horse is just having some behavioral problems that are challenging, or maybe you're having health issues that are making it challenging, there's so many reasons why you could be going through a rough patch with your horse or with horses in general. And I just really want to speak to those of you that are in that place and that are kind of wondering where that magic has gone and how you can find it again. The truth is that most of us got into riding because we're drawn to this magic that horses bring out in us. They have this really amazing ability to kind of take all of the chaos and the hard stuff in the world and just really push all that aside and bring out all of the magic, and kind of almost this like childhood fairy tale magic even. And they also bring people together in a really interesting way. You know, a lot of my friends, we don't have a lot in common outside of horses, but we can talk for hours and hours as long as we keep the topic on horses. And so, you know, I think that there's like a lot of really important things there to remember in these harder days. And I have a couple of really simple, tangible things that I'm going to suggest to you today to help you find that magic again if it seems to be missing in your equestrian life. So the very first thing that I'm going to recommend is that you just get right back to the fundamentals. Go back to the absolute basics of horsemanship. Find your groundwork, find, you know, just really hone in on your routines of caring for your horse and going back to the things that are just like your bread and butter of the day-to-day, the things that normally seem very mundane or boring, and come back to those. Because when you start there, that really creates the roots for all of the joy and the magic to follow. So instead of, you know, tend to always be like pushing toward a goal or working towards something, or we're really driving and pushing and always kind of efforting, always be like pushing toward a goal or working towards something, or we're really driving and pushing and always kind of efforting. And to really just like take that pressure off for a little while, and you'll go back there, so don't worry about that going away. But really just come back to the root of why you love horses, and come back to just the bare bones fundamentals. And on that note, I have actually a workshop coming up called the Foundations Workshop. If you are watching this in the future and you missed it, don't worry about it. You can catch it next year, because it's going to happen every year. But that's the whole point, is to come back to the fundamentals and really work on our foundations of training so that we can rediscover joy with our horses. So if that's piquing your interest at all, check below for the link and more information about that. Second step is to, you know, I have this great sign in my house right by my front door. It says, "Don't forget to go outside and play." And it's just such a good reminder that we tend to, again, start taking life too seriously, taking things too seriously, and just finding a way to play with horsemanship can be really life-changing. So, if you have a horse still, like I know I opened with a story of losing multiple horses. So if you've lost a horse, maybe seeing if you can find a friend's horse that you can borrow just to like go out on a trail ride or just have a nice, enjoyable, just time to play. A horse with no pressure, no strings attached, just enjoying some of your time. And then if you do have your own horse, really looking for opportunities to play with your horse, either on the ground, just turning them out and like see if they'll follow you and you can run around the arena together or whatever else. Or taking them on long walks can be really enjoyable, or going for a bareback ride in a halter if your horse is safe with that, or exploring new trails or making new barn friends, but really just finding more play and levity in your horsemanship journey can really make the hard days feel so much more worth it, and can also really give you the rest that you need to go back and push towards your goals and to give you more energy for that effort and for the harder parts of what we're working towards. So really taking a moment to think about what inspires you, what feels like, it feeds your soul a little bit, and find more space for that play in your relationship with your horse. Final piece of advice that I want to leave you with today is to mix things up a little bit. Try something different. Try something you haven't done before. I have a student who used to be a really competitive jumper and was kind of burning out on that, and has really found a passion for groundwork of all things, which is really awesome to watch that blossoming and see how that's then been applied into other areas of her life and her horsemanship. I have students who have been riding English their whole lives and decided they wanted to go more Western and do cow work. And that's been really amazing to watch how their confidence was built by finding a new sport. And I've also seen students go the other way that have been riding Western forever, and now all of a sudden are like, I kind of want to try jumping. And just trying something new and different can really kind of re-inspire you and reignite the passion that brought you to horses in the first place, without having to totally rewrite the entire playbook. So kind of thinking about how could I maybe just do things a little bit differently, and play with that. See what comes up for you. And again, if you're interested in the foundations workshop, that might be a really cool way to try some new things without having to completely scrap your entire riding career and start over. But if you're feeling called to scrap your entire writing career and start over, then maybe that's what's needed too. I don't know. But anyway, I hope that was helpful. I hope that you find more joy in your horsemanship and that you find more magic with your horse, because there really is nothing like it. And I really, really hope that you don't give up, because I promise if you kind of push through this hard moment, there is more joy and magic waiting for you on the other side of it. With that, make sure to hug your horse for me, and I'll see you in the next video.